Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're tuning in. Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you'll get all things DutyRon and this guy over here, Ed Wallace, when we go live or upload another video. Hey, this afternoon, it's not a normal time for us to go live, but I am honored to have a special guest, a friend, Nick Rinn, former Adventures with Purpose diver, who is now out on his own in his nonprofit search and rescue group, Oregon Rescue Divers. And Nick is a stand-up a gentleman. He's an Army veteran. He is somebody who has compassion and cares about victims and their families. I've had many conversations with Nick. Ed and I are honored to highlight him today. But before we get into it, we have to say thank you to you, our supporters, our subscribers, the Patreons, the channel members, the replay viewers, the subscribers, the folks who share us, the folks who watch the replays. Ed and I are caffeinated with coffee like crazy. You guys are buying us cups of coffee on the Buy Me a Cup of Coffee app. So thank you. Ed, how you doing this afternoon? And thank you for taking out the time to be with us here today. We got a great town hall meeting and a sit down with Nick Rinn.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Originally I was supposed to be on my way down south to the DC area for a meeting, but due to the weather and one of the individuals that were crucial to the meeting got sick. It got canceled, and so I was happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, we're all happy to have you here because your expertise when it comes to forensics and everything that is regarding crime scene and evidence collection and the CSI type stuff, everybody loves to hear your take on things, Ed. We saw the trailer that was created by Devin Carroll. He's working alongside with Nick Rinn. I'm going to play it again for you guys because it blew me away. And, some people would say, oh, it's a lot of Ritz, but, it wasn't a lot of Ritz. I thought it was fantastic because it showed, Nick Rinn transforming into his Army fatigues. And it was all about the service and about what Nick is ready to provide for the community across the United States. And heck, who knows, maybe it might take him international. You never know where this stuff can go. So I'm going to play it again for you guys because I was so impressed with this and I'm so thankful that Devin was able to put this together for us. So let's let it rip.
My name is Nick Rinn.
After just about 35 minutes in the water, Nick made that fateful discovery.
It's an emotional moment for sure. I'm the diver that found Kiely Rodni.
So how did you pinpoint the area where you actually searched?
We're taking our resources and the intel that we've been provided. I'm a public safety diver instructor, underwater criminal investigator, founder and president of Oregon Rescue Divers Search, Rescue, and Recovery Team. There's a task at hand that I have to do, and I need to do it. I was a combat engineer in the United States Army for 11 years. As a search, rescue, and recovery diver, this is a way for me to give back to my community and country.
Feels like somebody's willing to, give me a hand and help out.
Join me Sunday, December 10th on DutyRon's YouTube channel.
Go over to DutyRon.com, put in your questions for this weekend show, and we will be sure to ask any and all questions. Nick Rinn has a new venture that he wants to come on and talk to you about. It's called Oregon Rescue Divers, and I'm looking forward to seeing each and every one of you.
We will be speaking live at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Please come on in, join the conversation, and I'm looking forward to getting together with Nick Rinn this weekend. Thanks, and I'll see you all there.
I'm excited to talk to you, Ron, and the gang, and I'm excited for all the questions you all may have.
There you have it, Ed. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, good work.
I want to, I had another thing in the hopper that I was going to play, but I'm just so excited to have Nick Rinn on. I want to just bring him in now. Joining us without further ado, Nick Rinn, president of Oregon Rescue Divers. Nick, how you doing? Good morning. How's everything?
Good. How are you guys?
It's
Doing good, Nick. Happy you're here.
It's a pleasure to have
Awesome.
you back.
Thank you.
The last time we had Nick was almost over a year ago, right? It was right after the recovery of Kiely Rodni. And there's so many questions that are out there, Nick. We asked our folks, as you saw in that piece that Devin put together, we asked people to send us questions. And I got to tell you, I have 3 sheets of questions that I'm an old school guy, so I handwrite them out. I don't like to read off of a phone or email. So I rewrote them. And I want to just put you full screen and just, if you can quickly, I mean, we're going to just do this like a sit down town hall type meeting. Just tell the audience what, we were talking for 6 or 7 months. It took you a while to get this thing going. Just give your mission and statement so people know what we're doing. And then we'll get into a brief conversation about Kiely Rodni.
Sure. So I've just created my own nonprofit search, rescue, and recovery team called Oregon Rescue Divers. I'm pretty happy about it. I've already got some team members trained up, and basically our mission here is to provide assistance for any sort of aquatic emergency, whether it be a search and rescue mission for something that just recently happened, looking for a drowning victim. It could be an accident where a vehicle accidentally ends up in the water and they need help to find and recover it. It could be looking for underwater criminal evidence that, as you know, criminals will use bodies of water to hide evidence, whether it's a gun, knife, cell phone, that sort of thing. So basically anything involved with search, rescue, and recovery. That's what we're here for, and that's what we practice. And it's a year-round thing. We do a lot of training, basically, once a month and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, anything water-related, that's what we're here for.
I get excited about this stuff because I am, along with Ed, the law enforcement liaison for EquuSearch Midwest, and we go around and speak. I do it obviously by phone, and if it's anything local, I'll go in person. But basically, we are we try to be that in between with the search and rescue nonprofit groups that go out there and search for the missing. And we talk with law enforcement across the country. And a lot of times they have the pride issues where they want to take care of a situation and do the searching on their own. They don't want outside help. And we saw with Kiely Rodni, and I can't help but to bring this up, that 16,000 man hours, the 8 different agencies involved in this search, 2 weeks. And then you guys came in there, and in 35 minutes in the Prosser Reservoir, you recovered Kiely Rodni inside her car. I just think, and when we got together a year ago, and you had you on with us, and we had separately Doug and others to talk about this, I just think it's so important for law enforcement to understand that when you have limited resources or limited knowledge base, and a group like you guys come in there, they need to just open their arms up. And I think that they're seeing that more and more, and that's a good thing. Ed, I wanted to go to you because we had so many different conversations about how that car was recovered, how the turning of it in the water and the evidence falling out of it. There's so many people who are in the chat, and listen, I'm not poo-pooing the people who feel like this is still a criminal investigation, that she was murdered. I respect all people's opinions. Listen, I'm always open into listening to things, but they have deemed this an accident. And we have lots of questions from Nick in regards to that. I wanted to go to you on the importance of, evidence preservation and collecting evidence as it pertains to cars under the water.
It's like us, crime scene investigators are like doctors, right? When it comes to our crime scenes. And it's the old oath that the doctors take: first, do no harm. Do no harm to the crime scene. Do not try not to alter it. And there's only two justifications for altering a crime scene, and that is life safety, number one, which you didn't have here, and number two, evidence preservation. That's why I said that they should never have flipped that car underwater, especially since they didn't seal the windows or wrap the car. Because once they flipped that thing, all the evidence that was inside the car started exiting the car and were left on the floor of the lake. Okay, for some other YouTuber to come back and find later. All right. I don't want to sound super critical, but we have standards in forensics, and it just was not followed here. Okay, there was
Yeah.
no reason to flip that car. That's the way they found that car. That's the way the car should have been pulled out of there, and the window should have been wrapped, because you had to know that the water will be rushing out of these open windows as the car is being pulled ashore, so that the contents that are in there, are going to be washed out. With the water rushing out, and it should have been photographed underwater, so that everything was documented as to its position in the interior of the vehicle. In this case, the vehicle was upside down, so a lot of the loose materials were now on the roof of the car or the ceiling of the car inside of the interior, right? So that all should have been documented, photographed, showing where things were in place and where the body was actually in place. Okay. I don't know if they did that, but what I did see, I was not happy with.
Yeah. Yeah. And Nick, I wanted to also ask you, because I have these 3 sheets of questions here. People are curious about that recovery of the vehicle. Now, I know from conversations with you, and I'm sure that some people haven't heard this, but they actually scooted you guys away, right? You guys were on like a berm across the way watching. Do you want to talk about, after you made that recovery, you made that notification to the family first and then law enforcement? Were you guys questioned by law enforcement, interviewed by detectives, by highway accident investigators? And what happened after you made that discovery, came up topside, those notifications happened? Can you tell the audience what happened after that?
Sure. Yeah. Once we made the discovery, called the family, made contact with the detectives, and, started to get, it wasn't but maybe 5 minutes, instantly there was family and law enforcement on the scene of different agencies. I don't know exactly who was who, because most of them were just wearing polos with no logo on and that sort of thing. So yes, they did question us, more specifically me, since I was the diver that went under and found her, and I had a GoPro on, so I was able to do a kind of a cursory search of the vehicle as it lay there. So they asked if we could see the footage. We did put it on a laptop. We took a few of them inside the trailer, showed them the footage of what I'd found underwater, and then they maybe asked us a few more questions of, what time was it? Is that, why did you come over here? Pretty basic stuff. And then it wasn't too long after that, they basically said, okay, sorry, we appreciate your work. They're very, very thankful for us finding her. And then they said, we're going to basically, flag this off as a crime scene, which is probably standard when you find any missing person deceased. And so they said, you guys are going to have to leave the area. They didn't ask if we could help recover the vehicle. At that point, it's their scene, and our work is done. Now, I don't know why, and maybe you guys can answer some of these questions that I have, why they most of the time will kick out people that aren't in their law enforcement agency or whatever. They'll kick you out and they'll use their own people. I don't know if that's because for liability they have to do that, but a lot of times there are nonprofit groups or volunteers out there that may have more experience and training in doing vehicle recoveries than the law enforcement agencies themselves. So it was odd to me, but it wasn't out of the ordinary. It just always seems odd that they would kick out people that kind of specialize in that sort of realm.
I think Ed could add something to that. Ed, could you possibly maybe add some insight into why that would happen?
Well, I see a couple of issues. One, they don't really know Nick and his background and his training. I mean, obviously, Nick can give them a quick down and dirty out there in the field. Number two, Nick is a civilian, and they're concerned about the criminal investigation aspects of it. But we have from time to time brought civilians into crime scenes to assist that had specialties like forensic anthropologists. They're not law enforcement, but they are civilians, and it is a crime scene. And if we have bones, we want that expertise in there in the crime scene to assist us with the documentation and preservation of that evidence and to make sure it's properly collected. Now, many crime scene investigators have that training, but underwater crime scene investigating is a specific forensic discipline that requires certification and training. And there are schools out there. For instance, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, has specific schools to train law enforcement scuba divers to do underwater crime scene investigations and the collection and searches underwater. And there are private schools that do this as well, but they're usually run by law enforcement or former law enforcement. They made a judgment call. I don't necessarily agree that they made the right decision in this case because I think Nick and his people had the equipment to wrap that car and correctly seal those windows from things getting out, and had the underwater GoPro. Nick, maybe you can tell me, did you see any of the law enforcement divers go down there with cameras to take any photographs?
I did see two divers after they finally got their dive team in after we got kicked out of there and kind of went across the channel so we could watch from the other side. And there was two divers that went in the water, and they were underwater for quite a while. I don't remember seeing exactly what they were carrying. They were quite a ways away from me, but I'm assuming it had to be cameras because at that point, what else are you doing going under there at that point? So I'm assuming that's what they did. What they did with that after they got out of the water, I don't know. They didn't really keep us in contact or in the loop after that.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's a shame. You could still have them. You could still have people like Nick, not thrown out of the crime scene, but in the staging area of the crime scene to consult with.
Right. And I learned a lot from that particular incident, and that's part of the reason that I wanted to go farther in the field of underwater search, rescue, and recovery stuff. And I've attended, like you said, there's some schools out there, and I went to one. It's called Underwater Criminal Investigator course. It was created by Mike Berry. It's been around for quite a while now, and that certification is actually recognized by FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security. So I'm hoping now as a civilian with some of these credentials that it might be more inviting for future cases like this. If there's law enforcement there, they might be more apt to let somebody like myself help them because of some of the training that I've since attended since that incident.
Nick, there are other training courses that you as a civilian can get from law enforcement. Like there's the Metropolitan Police Training Institute in Miami Metro-Dade. They put on an underwater crime scene investigation course, and you'd for a fee you can apply
Sure.
and get your people through that course. And as you said, there are plenty of other courses that are out there to get that certification. Now, typically the FLETC, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Georgia, doesn't allow civilian contractors to get involved in their training, but mostly sworn law enforcement only. But you can always try. Who knows? Maybe they changed their entry procedures since I've retired.
Now, I wanted to
Good to
switch
know.
gears just a minute because I have a special guest, Dave Rader from EquuSearch Midwest. He's going to join us in a few minutes. But before we do, while we're talking about this, Nick, this is one of the questions, and it's a redundant one, and I want to just get this out of the way. But first off, I didn't personally thank you for your service to our country, and I want to say thank you for your service. 11 years as a combat engineer in the U.S. Army. We tip our caps to our men and women in our military, and also all of our law enforcement. It's a part of service that sometimes goes unthanked. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for your service as detectives and the law enforcement thing.
Yeah. And I want to thank also, Ed, 1 second. I want to also thank Devin Carroll for doing everything that he's doing for you to help you out with presenting your message in a professional way. He made that trailer, and he also offered to help me, which was unbelievable, in a phone conversation. So Devin, if he's there, I want him to come and say hello to everybody, because he's always behind the scenes and never is somebody who people get to see. And I want to thank him for everything that he does. Hey, Devin.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Sorry, gotta get this chair here. How you guys doing?
Very good, Devin. Again, you're a talented person, and I want to thank you for everything that you're doing for Nick, and you're helping other people I know, and you offered to help me, which I was shocked for with that. I was like, oh, well, thank you. So I wanted to bring you on because you were there also with Nick when this Kiely Rodni recovery was made, and you were kind enough to do a video with Nick on, I think it was CC's channel. It was a 56 or so minute video, and it answers a lot of questions. So I'm going to direct people to go over. I'll link it in the description here, and you guys can go over and look at that pre-recorded video that you did with her on her channel. I really got a lot of insight to some of the questions that people were asking. Yeah, the trailer that you made here was phenomenal, and I tip my cap to you.
I appreciate that.
It's all Devin. He's the director, the producer, and the editor. I'm just the guy that does what he says.
Yeah, if you guys saw the outtakes, you would just be laughing nonstop. But we enjoyed making that, and it was a little cheesy, yes, but it was also we got to make it to where people want to watch. As far as the CC video, go check it out. CCTV, she did a great job coordinating all the questions for us, and we were at it for well over an hour, and then we trimmed out the little bits where maybe we had to blow our nose or something like that. But we tried to answer as thoroughly as we could. A lot of the questions were very direct, but some others were we couldn't help but laugh. But these are valid questions, all of them.
Everybody has questions, and some of the stuff, there's no answers to them because like you said, you guys were creating the content, and you guys were there filming. I'm talking about you, Devin. Nick and the rest of the team had their jobs to do, and you were just documenting it. But you didn't have the last word on what made the floor, what was cut and what was put out there. I think we all know that there was somebody who was responsible for the end product, and people point the fingers at Nick, Doug, and the rest of the team and all the guys and say, you guys are what you put this out. This is, I think the owner of that channel is the one who had probably the last say on what went out there, and people should take that into account. Ed, before I interrupted you, did you remember the thought that you were going to ask Nick?
No, I just wanted to put out there to thank Nick for his military service, but I'm not sure that everybody in the audience knows what a combat engineer is. Okay, and it's a very dangerous job. These guys are out there in the middle of battlefields with the grunts on the ground pounders, and they're out there helping build foxholes, putting up bridges to cross rivers and spans like that. And building other, your artillery pits and things of that nature. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nick. You can jump in anytime and explain what you did.
In other words, he was.
Yeah, basically, you're dealing with landmines, whether you're putting them in or taking them out. You're building wire obstacles. You're digging in, fighting positions. Basically, the combat engineers, and it might have changed. I got out in 2004. It might have changed since then, but basically you're the first people in and the last people out as far as like a combat zone.
So your equivalent in the Navy would be the Seabees?
Correct.
There you go. Ed Wallace knows his stuff. But so I have Day Rader. He's traveling, and I want to add him in because I think also, and we're going to come back to a couple more questions. So I'm not done with. I want to ask you about Nick, the tow truck driver guy, and your statement when you came up out of the water. And again, these are all things that I already talked to you about, but these are questions that I have on these 3 notepads. So we're going to circle back to Kiely Rodni. So everybody in the audience, hang on for a minute. This part of our program and part of the show is, I think, very important because when you have searches like searches for Summer Wells in the Beach Creek community in Tennessee. We had 300 plus people on the ground searching with a very small Hawkins County Sheriff's Department. And I'm bringing up Summer Wells because it's a very good example of where divers like Nick and others who are doing this can work together with land searchers like EquuSearch Midwest, and they do it all. They have the sonar. They were friends with Team Waters. They did everything. And Dave Rader went down there and was a part of that 300-member search. And this is a collaborative effort from law enforcement from the surrounding communities, volunteers. And when you're starting a new venture like what Nick is starting with Oregon Search Rescue Divers, you need to have a Rolodex a mile long. And Dave Rader is a guy who I reached out to because he's a good friend of mine. And I said, would you be willing to come on and talk with Nick and have a little bit of a conversation? He goes, well, I'm driving back from Florida. I've got my sidekick, Linda, my good friend. She's driving. So I'll come on and say hello to you guys. So without further ado, the director of EquuSearch Midwest, Dave Rader. Hey, how are you, brother?
Good, brother. How are you guys?
Yeah, well,
always a pleasure to join you.
Yeah, so you got Nick and Devin, and Ed Wallace.
Hey.
Hi, Nick. Devin.
Hey, how's it going, Dave?
It's always a pleasure to see you and ask you where the hell you are in the world. But
I'm home these days. I'm home.
Nice. I'm a little bouncy right now because the roads in northern Indiana is not the best.
Uh-huh.
So, Dave, you heard me talking about Summer Wells. That's a case that's still a 5-year-old went missing in 2021, and still we have no answers there. You were down there several times to search for her, and I made the example and comparison of how a group like yourself and a group like Nick that does the underwater searches and so forth, how important that would be to work together. And when I made that comparison to you, you were like, put me on. I want to meet this guy.
100%.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about Team Waters and how you were involved with them, or the relationship that EquuSearch has or had with him?
Dennis and Tammy were, I met Dennis and Tammy way back in the beginning, 2008, 2009. And the man was, he was a different breed. He knew his stuff about the hummingbird and how to find bodies. I think before Dennis unfortunately passed, I think that they were up to either 105 to 110 finds with what Dennis and Tammy has done across the country, and some of the some of the things that they produced was unbelievable. This little remote controlled sonar unit has been absolutely valuable in putting them in retention ponds where instead of putting a side scan sonar or putting divers in the water, we could scan that and tell you exactly what's in that pond within 15 minutes. Then if we did have an anomaly, that's where Nick and his crew would have come into play as far as put a diver, put eyes on, and then they do their thing from there. So it was a well-oiled machine, and that's what we strive to do is to work with everybody in the search community, get along with everybody, build your Rolodex just like you were saying, and that way, everybody knows how each other works, and when you get on the ground and you get out a chaotic scene, it goes as smooth as possible.
Yeah, and that's an important thing, Nick. Do you want to just maybe expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We most of the time, a water search, rescue, and recovery team is a very, it's not as used as a ground search team, but when it comes to the water's edge and somebody needs a little bit of help there, once it comes to going underwater, that's what we're trying to bring to the table. And what I've realized since in the last year to 2 years is that we have a severe shortage in this country and probably the world of public safety divers, teams that know how to use a boat with a sonar, They have the proper training for underwater recoveries, search methods, and all that. There's just a shortage of it. And I'm not saying it's at anybody's fault. It's, to be honest with you, in the grand scheme of things, it's fairly new in the world of, scuba diving alone is not a very old sport. I mean, in the 50s is about when it kind of became just the beginning of when it was available to the public. So the more people you can put working a case or on a project and collaborate ideas and different skill sets, the quicker and that you can find somebody or solve a case. And it just, using more resources helps speed up the process.
I agree. And Ed, you and I talked with Dave about this a while ago, and Dave confirmed it. Getting people to volunteer. I mean, don't forget, these missions, a lot of times you're coming out of your pocket and you're, it's all donation driven. And if you don't get the donations, Dave has said many times, I never say no to anybody. If somebody, a law enforcement agency, asks me to come help, I mean, heck, you sent people out to Utah to search for Dylan Rounds. You don't say no to anybody. And I don't think Nick is going to be like that either. If somebody needs his help, he's going to pack it up and go. And that comes at a cost. And that's what's most important and I want to say this is that, I'm going to put myself full screen for a second, people. The important part here is that you have to understand that this doesn't happen for free. It happens with donations from people like me, you, and good people who want to see missing people reunited or some sort of closure for families. It's about the victims and their families. I say it till I'm blue in the face. And without people like us that are in it for the right reasons, that want to help people, these things do not happen without funding. And it has to happen through either crowdsourcing or different means. However you can do it, you do it. And listen, I'm the first to step up to the plate for good people like Dave Rader, Nick Rinn, and the others that are out there. There's so many other really good ones. And I highlight them over the course of my time on YouTube. I make random generalized videos, good groups to support. And I do some of my research. Ed, as you know, is a private investigator. Ed looks at everyone's backgrounds and does his little checking and says, "Oh, these are good people. Let's support them." So go ahead.
It also speaks to both Dave and Nick's professionalism and commitment to the cause. Okay, not turning anybody away. Yes, it costs money, and we'd like people to help donate to these causes, these good causes that are out there helping people every day. But it's funny because even in the NYPD, when the biggest police department in the country and the biggest budget for law enforcement, sometimes our equipment needs and training needs fall short, and so then it goes back on the individuals, the detectives, to figure out how to adapt and overcome to these things and get around it. Sometimes we go into our own pockets to make that happen. So I know a lot of good detectives that did that as well.
Yeah. So Dave, I know you're traveling. I don't want to hold you a long period of time. I want to get permission from you to exchange numbers with Nick, if you guys don't mind. I'll share, the information back and forth with you guys.
100%.
And if there's any cases or even advice, like this is a whole nother thing too, is like Ed is a teacher, right? And when he was in the crime scene unit, I'm sure that he gave advice and taught other people. He was probably one of those guys that everyone went to look for, to learn, to look for ways to be better at being a crime scene investigator. So Dave, you have a lot of knowledge. You have a lot of time under your belt with searching for the missing. Nick has he's a master diver. This guy can swim circles around you, Dave.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I got to put a little fun.
I can't even use a damn snorkel for crying out loud. So no, I'm not even going to go into where he lives in a whole different world.
I told Nick he could use me as a buoy if he wanted to. You know what I mean? No problem. I'm big and I float. But seriously,
I'm much better on land, Nick. So you don't have to worry about me taking your job at any point in time. So you're good to go, brother.
Cool. So I'm glad I could get you guys together, and it's connections like these that really make the difference, you know. And look, Summer Wells is still out there. She needs to be found. Maya Miliete, I'm just throwing names out there. There's dozens and dozens, hundreds and thousands of people who have their cases that are unsolved. So there's work to do out there. There's a lot of work to do. And the more people we have working together, the more success we could have. So
and the nice part about that, Ron, is that by doing this, is that when, you know, and again, thanks to you and the exposure, you know, I get calls all over the United States now. So it's not like I just stay in the Midwest. So if I need somebody and say, hey, do you have a water team? Now at this point in time, that's where the Rolodex comes in. And guess what? That's when I call Nick and say, hey, this is what we have. This is the municipality that has it, or, you know, and make sure that he's in that area. So that way he can go ahead and, you know, you go ahead and take care of that municipality and look for those loved ones. So absolutely, this is what I'm talking about as far as expanding your circle, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think we're all on the same page. So Dave, I'm going to let you go because I know that you're again driving, but I appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us for a little bit of time here. I want to just continue on because I got another 30 minutes that I want to get a little bit more of information about his new venture that's got going on here. But you and Linda have a safe trip home. You're coming up from Florida, right? Coming back up to Ohio?
No, actually, I was in Milwaukee.
Shit,
I was in Milwaukee. So for an ugly sweater contest that my buddy put on, and we had 100 people in his house yesterday.
Did you win?
So what's that?
Did you win?
No, I got the ugliest person, but I didn't get the ugliest sweater. and besides that, I told him, I said, look, I get too damn hot. I'm 6'4", 265 pounds. I said, I don't wear a sweater very well, especially in tight situations. I said, so you can either let me wear a t-shirt or I'm coming in a Christmas thong.
Wow.
Visual Christmas t-shirt one.
We just dropped half of our audience, but then again, maybe we did. Dave,
maybe.
I'm wearing my EquuSearch Midwest wristband proudly.
Excellent.
So yeah, anybody that wants these, we have them. They're on our website, and that all the fundage from purchases these EquuSearch Midwest. Let me go full screen with this because people are like, "What is he showing?" So it's this is a fundraiser that we did with Dave and the team. Any of the purchases, any of the money from the purchase of these will go directly to EquuSearch Midwest. And heck, I think over the time we funded close to $20,000 or so, give or take, to EquuSearch Midwest, and I'm proud to be somebody behind sponsoring and fundraising for the wonderful work that you guys have done. And your stats show just tremendous. And Dave, you want to talk just a little bit about some of the recoveries you made recently? I know there was one in particular that you were talking to me about on the phone the other day.
Yeah, and this one was a tough one. I mean, they're all tough by aspects, but I'll tell you, we got a phone call from Dayton PD here in Ohio to look for a little 22-year-old girl that was possibly suicidal, and unfortunately, I found her. I found her the next day when we put on a ground search, and it's just sad. It's just sad that the youth that are taking their lives, and it was from drugs, it was especially fentanyl. There's an epidemic that needs to be taken care of, but again, we're losing too many people to this stuff, and unfortunately, right now we're at 37%. Recovery rate, which is the highest we've ever been as far as successful for the year. We're 6 out of 16 cases. Wow. and the phone never stops. It continues on. So,
Wow. Unbelievable. And I put up there the suicide and crisis prevention lifeline. It's down there at the bottom of the screen. It's important. And also, just remember, if somebody reaches out to you, don't blow these people, don't blow anybody off, no matter who it is, stranger, friend, somebody from the internet. Take it all seriously, and take it from Ed and I, and also from all of us here. We know what that's about. And Nick, you in your nonprofit that you're doing, Oregon Rescue Divers, I mean, there's no doubt going forward you'll be dealing with lots more of this. And we're going to talk about Michael's story now. Next, we're going to segue into that. Dave, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for everything that you do for the missing. Twyla, your whole team. EquuSearch wouldn't be EquuSearch Midwest if you didn't have your team. Tony and the crew, all those guys are fantastic. And Gene, over in Texas, that old bastard, he is the best. I love Gene. He's the best.
Yep. And we just got stronger by adding Nick and Devin. So there you go.
Bingo.
All right.
We just got stronger. So I'm looking forward to working with you guys, Nick, Devin. Ron, again, I appreciate your friendship. I love you to death. Ed, I just wish I had 1/10 of your brain just to think during the day.
Me too.
So
Stop
I'm looking forward to. Am I turning? Are you turning red? I'm colorblind.
That's it. Yeah, a little bit.
No, seriously. We have come a long way because of you, Ron, and your persistence and diligence to put all the people together, and your passion to help find the missing. Also, it's invaluable. So I can't thank you guys enough. And once again, looking forward to what maybe 2024 has to offer for us all.
Awesome.
Cool. Nice meeting you, Dave.
Pleasure.
I'm looking forward to keeping in touch.
100%, Nick. So I'll get your number off air from Ron, and then I'll blow you a text or give you guys a call, and then that way you'll have my contact information, and we'll go from there. And again, brother, if there's anything that you want to pick my brain on, or say, hey, what about this, or can you help here? Because I'm going to use and abuse you also. Say, let's do this together and make this a beautiful partnership.
I love it.
I love it.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Get home safe, Dave. Merry Christmas.
Hey, and
Merry Christmas to you, Ed. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Give me a big hug for me, but not while she's driving.
I will.
Talk to you soon, brother.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there he goes, Dave Rader. The gentle giant is what I call him. The guy is a massive human being, but he's got a heart just as big as he is. So I love when he says, Ron, I throw the kitchen sink at every case that I go on. And that's the attitude that you want to be around, someone who throws the kitchen sink at it. Guys, if you don't mind, Devin and Nick, I want to go to the super chats because some of the people are on here. Mountain Girl sent in a super chat, and she says, much love, friend, with a bunch of hearts and some prayers. Thank you for being a member for 14 months. The Diva, she says, hey, Ron and Ed. Hey, Nick. Hey. Oh, hey, Nick. Thank you. Consistent Insomniac has been a member, became a member. She's been a member on and off. Thank you. Jane Hartford, thank you for becoming a member and supporting. Tiffany Knox, on and off, a member. She can't get enough of us. I know it. We love you. Sister Carol Ann Clark, always sending prayers, but also sending love. So she's spreading the love with $50. Any of the donations or any super chats that come in here, we're going to redirect those donations to Nick's Oregon Rescue Divers. But I'm going to ask you guys to donate directly to Nick. And I'll put that in the description here. Actually, I think I've done that already. I have that. Here is his website. It's going to scroll down along the bottom. And this is linked in the description on how to donate directly to Oregon Rescue Divers. It's right there, and it's a clickable link for the lazy ones in the description. I'm one of those lazy ones. If I don't see a clickable link, I'm not like typing it out or trying to copy and paste it. So it's clickable in my description. Here it's not, but definitely go and support these guys. Hey, I want to talk about Michael's story. how that happened. I want you guys, maybe one or both of you guys, tell us how that came about, and then we'll play a small clip from the video.
Sure. At the time when that first came about, I was with Josh Cantu, and we were down in the Sacramento area working on another project. And we got a phone call from Jacob Grubbs, who is, for those of you that don't know, he runs a search, rescue, and recovery team over in the Midwest. I think he's out of Illinois.
Just double check that.
But somewhere over in the Midwest. And so obviously not close to California. He got hit up by a guy that was from the Northern California area who needed help getting his vehicle out of the Sacramento River. And so since he wasn't there, he called, got a hold of us, and we were like, well, we're already in the area, so let's go ahead and see what we can do to help. So we spent a day. We thought it was going to be kind of a slam dunk, but when we first got there, this was at the end of a record snowfall year. Now has melted. The water levels were super high. The current was very extreme, low visibility in the water. So it didn't quite happen as quickly and as easily as we had originally anticipated. But obviously, it's one of those things that I'm the type of person that if something becomes a little more challenging, it almost makes me want to solve it or fix it even more. So I wasn't about to give up, and we stayed after it until we were finally able to complete the mission. And I'm glad we did. We met, obviously, Michael, who was the survivor of that particular story. And for those of you that haven't seen that video, I recommend you hop on over to my channel and check it out. There's a good message there too. I tried to basically use it as an opportunity with my small little platform to kind of raise some public awareness about the mental health issues in our country today. Mm-hmm. So, and with the help of Devin to edit and put together that video, I think it turned out pretty well. And I encourage everybody to check that out.
Amen to that. It's a 28-minute video. I'm just going to play a small piece of it here. It's linked in the description. It's on Nick Rinn's YouTube channel, which is also linked in the description. But let's just play a little bit here. And this is just this is a feel-good story.
Help getting a vehicle out of a river in Northern California. Josh and I were in the area at the time, so we decided to head north and see if we could help. Now, Michael had more of the story to tell, not only where his truck went into the water, but also how they both ended up at the bottom of the Sacramento River. What was so great about this particular experience and meeting Michael and his family is that we actually got to work with a survivor, somebody that actually decided at the last minute this is not what he wanted to do, and he was able to escape. After a tough day filled with seemingly insurmountable problems, Michael began to feel overwhelmed. Feeling trapped, he resorted to an unconventional option, driving his Ford F-150 into the Sacramento River. Thankfully, this story doesn't end in tragedy, but a stark reminder of the struggles people face in their darkest moments. So, of course, obviously, Josh and I jumped on the opportunity to help. We were already in the area, so we spent a day attempting to find his vehicle. I'm going to grab a magnet and a buoy. And we also used the resources of the local law enforcement.
Like I said, the water was flowing over 22,000 CFM.
This late spring rain has been the cherry on top for our reservoirs, which are nearly full.
We are looking at big reservoir recovery heading into the Memorial holiday weekend.
Where would average? I want to stop it right there because this is what we've been speaking about, and I'm going to bring us all back on. You were able to get help from a local sheriff there. They came out with their boat and some of his resources. I saw at least one, I don't know if he was an executive or the top guy, but that in itself, getting that to happen is huge. Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. Ed, correct me if I'm wrong. That's big.
Huge. It is.
No,
huge.
it is big. That was to be able to, and he was actually a great guy. Mark is his name. And, he basically showed up and was like, whatever you need me to do to help with this thing. Now, you got to remember, Red Bluff, California is a very small community. So it's kind of like a tight knit group of people down there. We also got one of the local towing companies, Hills Enterprises. They had no problem volunteering their time, and they were just great group of guys to work with. And so we felt very welcomed in that community as far as what we were trying to do to help. And yeah, it was awesome. Hopefully we can, that little one bit right there will help people go, oh, maybe we can work together with law enforcement and not have that, we can't work with you because you're not part of an agency.
Yeah.
See, this is another point too. I mean, they obviously, the law enforcement agency, have the water assets, all right, and they have some diving capabilities. So you could use this as a training to supplement the certifications that you must maintain continuing education in these things. And so, why not? Why not take advantage, partner up with Nick and his team and take advantage of that? That's awesome.
Nick, can you tell us how that went about? Like, did you, because I'm, I act as a liaison for Dave, EquuSearch Midwest. And a lot of times he's like, hey, Ron, could you do the intro? Could you call these people, this agency? Because, having the credentials that I have, it's not a given, but it's easier, with the brotherhood, you know what I mean? So how did you go about, if you can talk about that, how did that get set up?
You're talking about how we were able to make contact with the sheriff's department down there?
Yes, and coordinate and get him to put a boat in the water for you.
Yeah, so actually it was kind of an accident. When we showed up, I thought, again, like it was going to be a slam dunk. I was going to be able to go out there, find this truck super easy, and just get a towing company down there. And I would take the cable down, hook it up, and away we go, and we're out of there in one day. Well, after I'd searched a little bit underwater, and I kind of started seeing that it wasn't quite as easy as I thought it was going to be. The head guy that owns a towing company, Hills Enterprises, he actually told me when I came out of the water on one of my kind of original searches, diving in the water, he said, hey, don't worry about going in anymore. I just got off the phone with my friend that's also basically the head boat guy for the Tehama County Sheriff's Department. He's going to be down here in about 40 minutes with his boat, and he's got sonar. He'll help you out. So we were just like, wow, that's awesome. This is going to be great.
That's fantastic. That's a great story, and it just so happened to happen organically. So
yeah, it was a total accident. So
yeah,
cool.
it doesn't happen often like that. I wanted to highlight a comment because our good friend Jacob is in the chat. Chaos Divers, he says, I support Nick and Devin 100%. They're here for the right reasons and have a huge heart. I said that in the beginning of the show, Jacob. I guess maybe he was listening, or just maybe he's on the same page with me, because this is what I sense from you guys, is that you're in it for the right reasons, and it's not something that you're using to have a full-time income out of. You're doing this to help people. And Ed and I could tell you guys that we do this not because this pays our bills. Half of the money or more that I earn from here, I give it away. I donate. I make donations. Gabby Petito Foundation, the cases that we cover, the victims' families that come on with us, we send these donations. We send the money that we earn, the revenue from this channel, and we pay it forward. Of course, I got to pay my taxes. I get a 1099 at the end of the year, so I got to sock some aside for that. But what we do here is there's no writs to it. I mean, although I'd like to up my game with presentation for everybody, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here with Ed to educate and to help others. And I think that that's the same thing for you, Nick. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. If I could actually figure out how to make some money doing this, that's awesome. And I'd be the same way. There's different organizations out there that I would love to donate money to, just like you, for people that are thinking about ending it all by taking their own life. I'd like to help with those kind of programs. Victims of sexual abuse, sexual assault, I would love to donate to those sort of charities. Veterans hotlines and help for veterans that are suffering from PTSD and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's kind of an end goal. That'd be awesome if that ever happened.
It's a great thing. And Ed's on the same page with everything that we do here. And that's the reason he's here with me. And, I got connected with Ed just by chance through another fellow NYPD brother. He was a watcher of my channel before Ed came on. And he said, I've been watching you on YouTube, I think this guy could add a lot of goodness to your channel. And he put me in contact with Ed, and the rest is history. So things happen through networking, and if you keep yourself closed in and just say, I got blinders on, I'm just doing my own thing, leave me alone, it doesn't always work that way. And I feel the more good people you have around you, the more opportunities you have to help, first and foremost, more people, and also to grow and get better, because you'll need resources. Dive gear, putting the oxygen in those tanks, and all, I'm not saying the right words, but filling those tanks up is not an easy thing to do out in the middle of nowhere. And I could put this on the screen. Devin, you caught some great footage here at this Sacramento location on the Michael video, Michael story. I mean, look at this. It's a massive amount of water, huge body of water, but this doesn't happen at no cost. This is expensive to do this. So again, I can't overemphasize the importance of people helping good people do the right thing. And Jacob's in the chat. I would love to, I mean, he'd be a great guy to have on here, because he goes out with his partner, with Lindsay, and she recently got certified and is diving now and diving on cars, and they got a great channel. They're doing great things to go around, and those are people who I want to support. And he said it in the chat. DutyRon has supported me in my ventures, and yeah, hell yeah, I go over. Anybody that I can support that I see is doing the right thing, I'm there. I'm the first to do it. But Michael's story was heartwarming to me, because when I watched it in full, that 28-minute video, I left there with a great feeling, because you really, really not only had an impact on Michael himself, but his wife and his daughter. That's what was really amazing about that video. It's hard for me to circle back to these questions of Kiely Rodni, but I would get crucified if I didn't do it. We're almost at the hour. Let's go to the chat quickly. Hashtag Nick, hashtag DutyRon, hashtag Ed, hashtag Devin. If you have questions in the chat, I'll do my best. I can't get to them all, but I'm going to get to these here. So if you don't mind, Nick, I'm going to put you full screen as I read these off. So it's going to be the Nick Rinn show right now. All right. You ready, Nick?
Absolutely.
DC, her name is DC, D-E-E-C-E-E, Pacific Northwest. Gee, I wonder where she's from. She says, Nick, when finding missing persons, especially young, like Kiely Rodni, what are your top emotions that run through your mind, and are you able to compartmentalize? How did you cope with that situation? Thank you for answering. Thank you, D.
That's a good question. And basically the best way to answer that is, because obviously it's not easy. Finding anybody deceased is not an easy task, and it obviously is a little bit more emotional when they're younger, because as you know, those of us that have reached kind of our middle life age know that there's so many years that they aren't going to see. So it's a tough one to process. But the best method that I use to cope with that is to tell myself that I found that person so that nobody else had to. So the way I can, take on that responsibility and that burden so that somebody else didn't have to, makes me feel good. And that's really the best way I can answer that. I don't know. There's no magical recipe for what you do, other than you just gotta be tough and kind of realize that somebody's got to do it. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. And I'd rather do that so somebody else doesn't have to.
I would add on to that, the sense of shock. You're never ready. You're never ready to find the person. You want to do everything that you can to find them, but you don't expect it. And when you do, it's just that moment of you take a step back of like, is this reality? Did we just find this person? And,
right.
And the implications what that entails, So just to add a little bit.
I agree.
Ed and I can say this, when I started in 1991, Ed started way before me in the NYPD, but my very first crime scene that I was on as a young patrol officer, I started at 26. So I was a little bit older. Usually some of the young whippersnappers start at 21 in New York City, but I was 26. But I remember I was working in a day shift in the housing bureau. So it was the public housing sector. And it was a young, like 18 or 17-year-old that was shot out in front of a location of pink houses in East New York. And the sidewalk leading up to the location was graded away, so the water would go down and drain away from the building. And this kid was shot out in front of the building. And we got the call for shots fired. We went up there. I was a rookie. He was with a very seasoned partner. And I'll never forget this. Kid was laying on his back and he was bleeding and the blood was dripping down. It was raining and the blood was dripping down the pathway. So as we were walking up to him on the ground, there was a blood drain, stream coming down, and he was gurgling something. He was trying to say something to us. And we were thinking, young out of the academy, I was thinking this is like, his last spontaneous utterance that we're going to get. And I was ready to try to document it. He never got to speak those words, but why I'm bringing this up is because I'll never forget that. Now, if you want to say that that's a little form of PTSD, it may be a form of PTSD for me, because I'll never get that out of my mind. It was the first homicide that it was on. And I had to go in the ambulance at that location with the medical examiner, the crime scene, Barbara Butcher equivalent, the legal medical death investigator from the coroner's office. And she said, well, what are you waiting for? You got to go through his pockets. And I was like, what? I got to go through this guy's pockets now? And it was just blood in there, like that thick blood in his pockets. And I had just muted my mic. I had those gloves on and I had to go in the pockets. And I'll just never forget that smell of the blood, the fresh blood, and the face of this young kid. So yeah, we never, Ed, I know you could talk about countless crime scenes. You've been on over 2,500 of them, right?
Oh yeah, I could definitely do that, but I've just everybody in the chat would need therapy after this.
Yeah, so we don't want that.
No.
But yeah, you never forget the first set of human remains, no matter how you come across them. Mine was from violent multiple gunshot wounds, and I was a young kid. Here, I'm going to go from one question to another, because DC Pacific Northwest had a second part, and she said, have any of these cases caused PTSD? I think we've covered that. She's a former EMS and a current FEMA SART. She says, bless you for your work, and thank you to DutyRon and Big Brain Ed Wallace. These are her words. I wrote it out. So thank you. PCM says, #Nick, is anyone associated with AWP at the time being blackmailed into silence, or what they are allowed to say? That's a good question. It's a valid question. And I hope that you can answer that, Nick. Thank you.
I can only answer that I don't know about anyone, but I know as far as Devin and I, no.
You're allowed to freely speak about anything. Are you under any type of NDAs where you can't speak about anything still? Yes?
Well, as far as our current employment with them, we're not supposed to talk about.
No current employment, but we're not supposed to talk about the former group at all. But we can talk about our own personal experience and anything that's in the public sector.
Right.
Okay. Great.
Anything that's public domain.
Okay. Excellent. So I'm going from the chat to these questions, and I'll get to these quickly. This one comes from Xana May. She's a channel member, and she was involved in this because she was actually at the process reservoir on a big boogie board or something, and she took some video on her YouTube channel. She said, did you observe, this is to you, Nick, any recreational activities such as campers or people being out on the waterways from while you were doing your diving and searching? I don't know why she wants to know that, but I promised everybody I would ask the question. So there's that question.
Yes. In fact, it was just another day at the lake. There was people, playing with their dog, throwing the ball out into the water, playing fetch with their dog. There was paddle boarders.
There was actually either a couple or a group that were parked right on the top of that ridge there too.
Right at the peninsula.
Right at the peninsula. I think people are starting to refer to it as Kylie's Peninsula or something.
Kylie's Point or something like that. But
Kylie Point.
Yeah, they were parked right above us when we started to find the images of her vehicle.
Yeah, it was just a normal day at that point. Remember, this was like 2 weeks after she had went missing, and so there was all kinds of people camping and just going on like it was another day at the lake in the summer.
And here's just a follow-up. There's a second part. Most people don't ask just one question. It's always, let me slip two in. How large was the dive team from police and volunteers? Did you get to see many people? Because now we know from news reports that there were many man hours put into this search. And I have a big note written to myself here, and I have to say this. How could it be possible that by air and by the water, how did anybody miss this car as we saw it from that video? That's my own addition to this. And she also asks you, in addition to about the diving and how many people volunteer-wise did you see when you guys got there? Did you obtain permission to release your video, not meaning yours, Nick, but the video from the former team that you were on? Did they, this is a generalized question. She says, did they receive permission to release the video from Kylie's parents and grandparents before releasing it onto YouTube? It's a good, valid question.
It is a valid question. I can't necessarily answer that because we weren't the ones to release the video. Like you said earlier, that was the person at the top of the chain of command, let's call it, that did that. So any conversations that they had outside of what I did, I have no idea about. But I want to back up and hit the point that you said about so many thousand man hours, multiple dive teams. Now, when we got there, I didn't see any other dive teams on site. I think they had already done their searches and considered that lake clear. So, and I'm sure there's going to be multiple people asking the same question as far as the whole suspicious thing. When I found that vehicle on sonar, it stood out like a sore thumb. It was in plain sight. And so part of what was suspicious to me is like, how is it possible that I just found something that stands out like a sore thumb when they've already scoured this lake for many hours with dive teams, apparently sonar and whatnot, and they didn't find her? So part of in my brain is what makes that suspicious is we still don't know. Is there not a possibility that once it was searched and cleared, that then the vehicle was put in the water? I'm just,
and that's not to add speculation, but it's just kind of crazy how they would have missed it. Now, the other side of this is that, the water level went down a little bit, like a couple feet, since they had searched it. So maybe that's why we could see it through the drone at high noon or 2 o'clock or so. But it doesn't make any sense to any of us how it got missed, because we had just stumbled across it and we were just like, okay, well, this has to be something, probably a boat. Maybe, like, personally, we thought it was a boat initially. Like, how else could it be anything else? And then we called the other team members over. They scanned it and then also got a magnet on it. And then we were just like, okay, this is something else.
This image freaks me out, and I'm going to let you go and talk, Ed, about this. But when I saw this, I was just like, how in God's name? I was actually embarrassed for the amount of the numbers that were thrown out there. And I have it written down, the man hours and all the agencies and all of that stuff. It's irrelevant right now. But the bottom line is when you look at this image, I just don't know. Ed, go ahead with your thought.
I think the question about could this car have come into the lake after they did the search has been answered by the forestry camera videos that show that night that car drove into the lake.
At 12:33, when the last ping from her phone went off, it all coincides. But we never got confirmation if that was we know, and Devin, you could speak to this. I'm going to put you full screen as I say this, Devin. You know, as somebody in the industry, that anything can be recreated. You can spoof any type of footage of a car with lights going into a water at a location. If you use these editing tools, it's a possibility. And what I am saying as a retired investigator, as a retired NYPD detective, and Ed, you know all about this stuff. Until it is vetted 100%, and we never got confirmation, full confirmation. Although, when I made that phone call down to the local sheriffs and the FBI during this case, I was told by one of the sheriffs in Placer County that they vetted that forest video. Now that was verbally, and I'm not investigating the case. They told me they vetted that video. Remember, Ed? I told you about that.
Right. I mean, you could download the video from the public access of the cameras and then manipulate it afterwards. But the actual video is still on the servers of the forest department.
Right.
You're not going to be able to change that unless you hack in and you're
so gentlemen,
really
how? So gentlemen, it brings me to how in God's name did somebody miss this? And this is a grainy video from a helicopter that was around while this was all going down. So this is footage from KCRA channel 3. But look, they're zooming in there, and there's a diver going over to it. This is why people are going crazy, and this is why the conspiracy theories are existing, because people are like, "What in the actual F happened here?"
Ultimately, I think it was just a lack of training. They, like, when we had a conversation with them after the fact, they were asking us, how did we find her? So they were just as shocked. But I would say it was just a lack of training and a lack of consistency in refreshing their skills.
Yeah, you got to remember too, I've learned this since then, that you'd be surprised how many even law enforcement dive teams that are out there are basically just a person that is a cop or a police officer, and somebody says, "Hey, we need some people for our dive team. Who's certified?" "I am." "Okay, you're on the dive team." And they don't really have any continuing education to go above and beyond just the very basic minimum of knowing how to breathe underwater, which is basically all open water teaches you. And so, a lot of these, and that goes back to, why did they roll the vehicle over before they pulled it out and not containing the evidence? That goes into some very continuing ed into, public safety diver realm, underwater criminal investigator. I don't know if they have any of those in that area, if they're all just basic open water divers. What kind of sonar did they use? How many hours have they spent using it to practice or train with it? There's so many variables, but
to that point of sonar. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, please continue.
To the point of the sonar, we've been on other law enforcement vessels that we've looked at their sonar screens, and the resolution just isn't there either. So if they're using subpar sonar equipment, they would easily miss this. And also the angle at which you scan.
How from the air do you miss this? If you have helicopters now, I saw a video.
That I don't know.
I saw video footage of aviation from the sheriffs, from the forestry service, with extensive, searching back and forth, grids. I looked at the flight radar. I mean, I did my homework on this, and it was so much. It went right over it.
The questions that I have are, what time of day did they fly, and what were they using to scan? Because when I flew it with my DJI Mini 3 Pro drone with a circular polarizer lens, I was able to see it. But that was also at noon to 2 p.m. where the sun was directly above it. Because in the morning, when we had like those hot air balloon flights, the light was just causing a huge reflection. You couldn't see anything.
Yeah. They were out for 2 weeks, and that's Ed. Go ahead. I don't want to miss what you have to say, Ed. Go ahead.
It's also, you can have all the training in the world, but if you don't have the practical experience, you need a combination of both, right? So if they're not doing this every day and all they have is the training, it doesn't give you what you really need to do this work.
Yeah.
Right. You should realistically, as a dive team, be training at least 1 day a month, if not 2 days a month, whether that's going out with the sonar, and looking for a mannequin, or if that's actually just getting your dive gear on and going with a dive buddy and practicing your search patterns underwater. There's so many things you can do, because I agree with you on that, Ed, is going through the school and getting the certification is one thing, but just like they say, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So you got to continue to practice and train.
Well, here's another thing
really
too.
Good point there too.
Yes. Here's another thing with this too. If this was a criminal case, well, guess what? A defense attorney, if there was a defendant in the case, would then have be able to petition the judge to get this dive team's training and their certifications and a list of their experience. And as somebody that lives in that area, you too are eligible to get that information under the Freedom of Information Act to see, what kind of assets they have in terms of side scanning sonar, boats, divers, how many divers, what is their training, what is their certification, what are their protocols. You can get access to all that information. It's public information. Okay, paid for by your tax dollars, and then you could see what your agency's capabilities are. And also what ends up happening is you might find some deficiencies.
This also could run into 2 hours if we continue to talk about this. We could do a dedicated live stream based on this, and I'm sure that we'd have a lot of interest. Ed, I'm sure that you wouldn't be against doing a dive back into this again to talk. But there's a lot of things I want to get to, and there's more questions. Nick, the tow truck driver, was also something that caused a lot of uproar, a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion. Nick, the tow truck driver, and this comes in from Tina, who's also a channel member. She said in the Best Buy parking lot so she's going directly to Jared. Was Jared behind this drama? Was this a setup? Did you guys tell the police about this tow truck driver? And she said, thank you for answering.
Let's see. To answer that, I didn't tell the police about the tow truck driver. Of course, I was just a trainee. There could have been some people above where I was in that team at the time that did. That part I don't know. I wish we could get some confirmation. Now I know I firmly believe that in that individual, Nick was his name, that he believes what he saw is what he saw. It's what he believes. Now, do we have any proof of that? Nobody's shared that with us. So if they were able to get the potential footage from his dash camera of what happened, then they would have been able to vet that to see if that was true or false. And of course, it's a shame that no agency or no person or individual has come forward and made some sort of public announcement as, nope, we've ruled that out. So who knows on that? I don't know how to answer that.
As far as it being a setup, we only knew minutes out before we were going to Best Buy. So there was no way that anybody knew that we were en route to Best Buy.
Was that posted publicly though? The Best Buy, you guys going to Best Buy? Was that posted publicly?
No, it wasn't.
So he just came upon you guys because he knew you guys were coming, because there was media.
Well, he saw the billboard. No, he saw the trailer and the logo. And so he basically
media also said you guys were traveling there. I was following this closely. So the night before, there was News Nation, Court TV, and all the live streams was saying that you guys were going out to Truckee and that you were traveling there.
Right.
And I think it was put out on the Adventures with Purpose channel. So this knowledge was out there. This is what I'm getting at, is we have lots of people who watch us all over the internet. So if you say, I'm going to Brooklyn, New York, and I'm going to be there tomorrow, you can bet your bottom dollar some of the people who are watching or fans or whatever, subscribers, they're going to show up. They're going to show up there.
Absolutely.
Again, if I may jump in, there's a question there with this tow truck driver. So the case is closed now under the Freedom of Information Act. Anybody that wants to can petition to get the case files of the interview by police of this tow truck driver. And, you probably have to pay a fee to get that report, because it's public records. The case is closed, and there's no reason they should deny you access to that information.
Follow-up question, and I would just say this: in the future, if somebody was to come up to you and you were on a case, and I'm not just saying this to you, Nick, I'm saying it to anyone who's listening. Chaos Divers, Josh Cantu's in the chat. We love Josh, by the way. Everyone should go over and subscribe. He's going through some, health issues right now. I think he's got the flu, he said. So everybody send some love to Josh Cantu. We love him. I'd love to have him come on the channel and highlight his what he's doing as well. I've seen him suited up with you, Nick, and others. If that happens, and you're on a case where there's a missing, 16-year-old or anybody for that matter, someone comes on and says they were an eyewitness to somebody the night before or night, whenever it was, the days before, that information should be immediately relayed to the investigators. And Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, that is the next step after you guys videoed that guy and took that thing, 911 or Placer County Sheriffs or whoever your contacts were. Hey, we got this guy. Here's his number. This is what he told us. And you've done your job as a civilian. That is something that I felt should have been done immediately. And it could have been done by multiple people from the team. It didn't even have to be you, Nick. It could have been Devin. It could have been Josh. It could have been anybody. Whoever was there with you guys that had knowledge of that should have immediately called them and said, hey, this might help because this dude just told us this. So she also asked a question, and I'm trying to wrap as quick as I can. Tina also said, was Kiely Rodni wearing that white Odd Future sweatshirt that was put out by the Placer County Public Information Officer, white with red lettering on it? Did you see that when you went down and did that dive? Or was she clothed? Was she not clothed?
No.
This is a big sticking issue.
Yeah, so I didn't see, the only part of her that I saw was basically from about mid-calf down to below her feet. I saw pants, a little bit of skin, sock, and a shoe. Now, you got to remember, when you lose light, you lose color too. So, and I did have some lights up here, but it's still in the bad visibility. Looking into a vehicle that's upside down, it's kind of disorienting. But I'm pretty sure both shoes were on, although the position of it, one of her shoes would have been blocked by the other. I wish I had my training aid here. I could show that. But anyway,
it's on the CC video, by the way. If you guys want to watch the CC, I watched.
It gives you a little more,
and I took notes.
So, yeah, I don't know what shirt or anything above. Basically, I saw just below her knees down.
All right, let me get to the next one. Debbie Galloway, she asked if she was closed. We got that. Karen S says, do you, Nick, still believe it is foul play, as you said when you came out of the water? If so, if you say yes, why? If you say no, why?
Okay, a couple things on that. I never did say foul play. I said it looks suspicious. Now, suspicious could mean, again, part of it was, how in the world did I just find something this big that for 2 weeks people have been looking for in the water and they didn't find it? So that may, and then of course, knowing that we got that interview with Nick that potentially said he had seen her with somebody else a day or two after she went missing. So a lot of this stuff in my head made it seem suspicious. And I still do. And it mainly because nobody has, if they think it's an accident, and I know, and you guys can attest to this, there's people that are experts in accident recreation to say, okay, well, what do we think happened there? So if somebody says, well, we think it's an accident, that's fine. Can you, elaborate on that a little more and explain exactly how you think it went down? Since nobody's done that, in my opinion, there's still no answers. I don't know, give us some sort of story or a theory as to exactly what happened, and I might be able to say, okay, yeah, no, fair enough. But to me, it's still suspicious.
All right. Karen S says, she said thank you there. Heidi Cakes, who also is a channel member. What do you do to keep your mental health strong and while doing this? I think we already answered that, Heidi. It's a redundant question. Sorry, I'm not going to, you don't have to answer this. We already.
I go to the gym too, and I exercise routinely to keep my mind off of things.
That's a good way to de-stress. Glenn G. Lynn says, and again, I told you I was going to field these at you, and this is going to be the last question from DutyRon.com. Do you feel in any way guilty because of the false narrative in this case? Again, don't shoot the messengers coming from somebody.
Yeah, no worries. I'm not sure what the false narrative she's referring to is. No, I don't feel guilty. Remember, my job at the time was to find a missing person, and I found her. Yeah. Now, regardless of what people want to spin a narrative and make me out to be the bad guy because of how it ended up online or whatever. That wasn't me. I was just the guy that found her. So no, I don't feel guilty for finding her. In fact, I'm very proud of the fact that I found her. So hopefully that answers your question.
And I could say both Ed and I and my whole community are proud of the work that you did that day, and we stand with you. And again, I feel strongly that I respect the science. You know, we covered the autopsy results, Ed and I, with Barbara Butcher. We went over this. We did computer forensics. We did all kinds of shows on this case to give everybody an education of what data and technology was used to come to the determination. Ed, can you talk just a little bit while I'm going to play the next video as we wrap up and show a little bit of Nick's new venture, a video of a car going into the water and a gentleman inside of it and what he does to try to get air. So if you suffer from PTSD, maybe you might not want to watch this, but I feel a need to show this because it's important if your car ever, God forbid, goes into the water, how to get out of it. And I'm sure Nick can tell you a little bit more about this. That window break tool, which I have linked on DutyRon.com, and I've been talking about this window break tool since 2019 on my channel. I have them in every car that I own. It not only can cut your the seatbelt holder, it also can easily break out the glass. And every car I have it in, it's not in my glove box because you don't have time to go into a glove box. It's affixed right to the center console. So if I need it, I just grab it and break it. So there it is. There it is. Mine is yellow or like, you know, bright colored. It's not black like that, but there's the tool. There's an easy tool to get, and you can get them on Amazon. I have them linked. United Search Corps has them online too. Yes. Anybody and everyone who is concerned about this should have that linked in their channel. So let me just show this again. If you suffer from PTSD, this might not be one to watch. I'll go full screen with it. Notice he went to the back. Pretty scary. And that's an example showing you that he didn't have the tool to get out. Maybe the car was hit from the side. You couldn't open the door and you immediately go to the back. And the reason I wanted to play that is Kiely Rodni was found in the back. Okay. She may have not been well-versed in how to get out of a car going into the water. And that's what human nature makes you do. You go to the place where there's no water coming in. So
right, the water's rushing in from the front, and so you're trying to escape that water, and you're going to go to your back. If you can't get the door open or you can't get the window open, you're going to go to the air pocket in the back of the car.
Right,
because the weight of the engine is bringing the car down front first.
Dick, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that yes, statistically, when vehicles are found with somebody in them, most of the time they actually are in the back because of that particular reason, or just the general physics of the weight of the car going down. If the person was unconscious, the water's going to push them towards the back anyway. So they're going to more than likely end up in the back of the vehicle. So there's that. Then the other thing I wanted to say was if you're trying to escape a vehicle, sure, these tools are handy. And I agree, like there's a lot of them out there. I recommend if you want to feel safe, I will get one that goes into basically your cigarette lighter. That way it's fixed into a position. The ones on your keychain, most cars nowadays only have a key fob. So that's going to be somewhere in your vehicle. You're not going to be able to find it. But In Michael's story, the one that video I just went out, he was able to just simply reach over and unhook it. So don't forget, you've also got that. So don't be scrambling for this till you first try to just unhook your seatbelt.
Right.
Now, obviously, this will help you break a window. Don't try to do the windshield. That's reinforced. You want to do a side window and go out that way. But once the vehicle is completely engulfed with water, if you still have enough air, you should be able to open the door basically fairly, I wouldn't say easily, but not with too much effort, because now the pressure is equalized on both sides.
I'm going to show another video. I'm going to show another video here because I think it's fair to show. This is a reporter from the Weather Channel. She's going to show you how to break that window out. And she goes in the car, in the water, a couple of different ways. And this will demonstrate how important it is to get out of that car as soon as possible.
As we always tell you, you want to turn around, don't drown. We want to check out what one driver did in Northern California yesterday, heading straight into standing water like it's nothing. Then, of course, the SUV started to stall out. And just imagine if the water was a little bit deeper. You also don't know what's in that water. And being in a submerged vehicle quickly turns into a life or death situation. They obviously were not completely submerged, but if you are, what do? Meteorologist Jen Carfagno shows you how to escape.
Flooding is the leading weather-related killer, and more than half of those deaths happen in vehicles. I'm going to take this car and put it in that water and get out to show you how to get out alive in case this happens to you. For safety, I'm working with Rick LaProvost, the dive master for St. Petersburg Fire Rescue. On my first attempt to get a feel for what happens when the car goes under, I'm wearing an oxygen tank and a mask.
Get real. Here we go.
Everything is falling towards the front of the car. It would be really hard to get out. It's a frightening situation. The force of the water has me right up towards the roof, so I feel like I'm smashed. I have air, and it's frightening. I can't imagine if you just taking your last breath. So we're going to come back up. We're ready to come back up, please. Coming back up.
I have the oxygen tank and regulator in the car just in case, but I'm confident I know what to do to get out safely.
You're going to need to try the power real quick to get that window down. And if the water's at that level, it'll come in, but it's not flooding in to where you can then use your seatbelt, unclick it or cut it, and break the window, and out you go.
When I hit the water, I lost control almost immediately. So it's important to know the force water has on a vehicle. In effect, for every foot of water, a vehicle weighs 1,500 pounds less. Let's give it another go.
All right, so we're driving into
This time, the dive master stays in the car, showing just how quickly you need to act before the car is entirely full of water.
Seatbelt's already off, so now it's just getting out. I'm not waiting.
Wow. 55 seconds.
You have to act.
So it's pretty, I thought that was important to show that. I mean, we're talking about this case, and, it took a couple minutes for us to show that. Anything else that you'd want to add to that, Nick? You saw how she broke that window out. What if there was water there and you break the window? You got to get ready for it. If the water's all the way up and you break that window out, it's going to just come in on you, no?
Right. So, I mean, it's good if you're totally surrounded by water, it is going to be tougher. Now, they did some studies back in the 90s. I can't remember the name of the project, but what they found was they took a bunch of different vehicles and they put them in water and they tested how long the electrical systems would work after they're submerged in water. What they found was that most of them will last at least 10 minutes. So if you have electric windows that go up and down or lights or anything like that, basically you can assure yourself that you've got almost 10 minutes to where you could still physically roll that window down instead of having to use the breaker. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay.
Now,
if you don't happen to have a breaker.
Now these were controlled.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now these were controlled entries into this lake in this body of water here, and they were tethered to the tow truck to pull them back out. So it's a lot different situation than what Kylie went through, because she went in and appeared to be at a much higher rate of speed. In addition, Nick, can you remind us how many of those her windows were opened?
There was 2. One of them was all the way down. I'm trying to remember vehicles upside down. One of them was halfway down. So the
Right, partially
vehicle
down.
would have.
And so when the
Right. Go
So,
ahead.
like as you said, when the water comes rushing in, it's very difficult to swim upstream through that. And if you're in panic mode, and given no light and all this
Drunk.
information,
Right.
What'd you say, Ron?
Shock
if you're
it being dark.
inebriated,
Yeah.
it's been alleged by her friends that she was highly inebriated, according to her friends.
Right. But
And
did we get the
so
tox report back?
Tox report came back. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's also causing more confusion. But I don't want this to turn into 2 hours. I'm trying to wrap it up here.
Yeah,
1 hour
okay.
and 30 minutes. We'll save it for another show. Here is Nick Rins. I took the branding off of the top so you guys could see it. This is his search and rescue and recovery. And you got the about, the services, team lead, all the training and getting involved. And here, what's most important is the donate. And that's all linked in the description. We're going to make a $500 donation to Nick's cause and get him started. And that comes from all of you here who subscribe, who are Patreon supporters, channel members, and people who are just watching our videos. So this donation is not from me and Ed. It's from us together as a community. And this isn't a one and done. Nick will come back and answer more questions. And I hope I'm making an
Absolutely.
I'm making the assumption
Absolutely.
that he's coming back. Nick will be like, hey, screw you. I'm not coming back. But yeah, we can't cover this all in an hour and 30 minutes. We're over an hour and 35 already. And I just want to give Nick the last word. So many people are in the chat supporting you and saying kind things. It's always great to have you here with us. So I'll give you the last word.
I appreciate it. I want to thank everybody, first of all, for supporting everything that I have done, and Devin and I, and you, Ron and Ed, and having us on the show. I sure appreciate it. And your donation means the world to me. Excuse me. We are currently trying to save up for our own compressor because, we're a lot of times in remote locations where you don't have a dive shop or even a fire department nearby and that sort of thing. And eventually we're going to get it. We have plans to get an ambulance to pull the boat. So we have kind of a rapid deployment unit. So we have big plans as far as the future and as we can get some more money to come in. But obviously that's a long-term goal. But I also want to say that this is something that I can't do alone. And it takes a team of people to do this. And on that note, I would like to bring in the rest of my team right now and introduce them to you.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if they can hear me, but if you guys can please come in the office, I'd appreciate it.
Now, these are your dive team members who are working with you actively when you go out on your cases, correct?
Correct. These are anywhere. I'll talk about it a little more when they get in there. Hello, guys. Come on in, and you can stand over here to where people can see you. There's Spike. Go ahead and shut that door. Cool. First of all, over here, we've got Chip. Chip is a certified public safety diver, rescue diver. We've got Trisha right here. She is also a certified rescue diver and a master scuba diver. We've got Chris right there. He's also a certified public safety diver, amongst a bunch of other certifications, including some entry-level technical diving stuff. And then we've got Spike over here. Now, Spike, can you get a little closer, Spike? Because you're a little out of focus.
We saw Spike in the Michael story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some people, he's only going to be around. He goes by the alias of Spike, but here in a few weeks, he's going to have to be gone because he's got to go around the world and put Christmas presents in all the stockings all over. But anyway, Spike is a former combat diver instructor for the Special Forces in the Army, and he's got a lot of experience, and he's kind of our topside support special operations guy. We do have one more member on our team, and that is
Spike from the back.
There's Spike.
I'm jealous of his hair, and I see him, that's out in the Sacramento River from the Michael story video. There he is. He's not afraid to show his love handles. Me, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, that's right. And then we have one more person, Kurt, who is also on our team, but he is on vacation right now down in Mexico enjoying the nice warm weather, lucky. So anyway, I just wanted to bring you guys in. Oh, and then real quick, yesterday we actually did a training mission out at one of our local lakes, and that's why they were all here, and I wanted them to come in for this. And Chris, actually, we were doing a search mission underneath one of our local bridges. And speaking of underwater criminal evidence, Chris found this. I don't know if you can tell what that is, but that's a bolt from a bolt action rifle. So that was found yesterday. And, you know, a lot of times we find under some other dives, you find criminal evidence. This is a knife that I think I found this in the Willamette River up in Portland a while back. And then also a couple months ago, Chris also found this old shotgun.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that.
It's like a pump shotgun.
Yeah, hold it out here a little bit, Chris, so they can see that. So yeah, this is kind of some of the stuff we find when we're doing our training dives at our local lakes, and I just thought it would be interesting to share that.
Wow,
so
very cool.
Anyway, there's the team, Oregon Rescue Divers, and thanks everybody for your support, and thanks for watching. We sure appreciate it.
7. It looks like you got 7 to your crew, including Devin, and that's a great way to start off. I want to thank all the people standing behind you for being a part of the search. Oregon Rescue Divers. You guys are what makes it happen. So thank you.
Josh is also kind of what I would consider a recruit. The reason I say that, excuse me, is because on my team, basically to be a diver for my team, I want you to be at bare minimum a certified rescue diver. And as of right now, Josh is just a open water scuba diver, and he hasn't had a chance yet to take the time to go through some continuing training to get to that level. So Josh, you need to hurry up and get well so you can sign up for some of these courses, and then you too can be standing here with an Oregon Rescue Diver shirt on.
Awesome. He'll get there. Go easy on him, Nick. Go easy on him. He's a young lad. Go easy on him. Yeah, we look forward to your future ventures and supporting all the good that you're doing. And we promise you and Devin and the team will come back again sometime soon to give us updates and maybe to continue this conversation.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, listen,
Maybe.
I wanted to say again, Ed, go ahead.
No, maybe we can have him on a Forensic Friday, because I understand through his training, he learned a lot of things about fingerprints underwater that we talked about in the past.
Yes, I know. Sorry we ran out of time, but I wanted to talk a lot about that actually. So we'll have to do it again.
Gives us an excuse to come back. So maybe our next Forensic Friday, which should probably be next Friday, this Friday coming up. So Nick, check your schedule if you're available. We'd love to have you on. We do it at night, New York time, probably like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So
perfect.
It'll be later in your day. So
okay.
I want to thank all the super chatters. If you don't mind, I want to do this real quick because these are the people who are supporting, and also this money is going towards you guys. DC Primetime became a YouTube member. K Music sends in $10. Thank you. Wim, thank you for becoming a member. Angela S, who recently lost her brother. So we send you a lot of strength and prayers and positive vibes. She says, thank you for all you do, Nick. Changing lives every day and helping the missing. And I love that you wear your heart on your sleeve. So thank you for that kind of word. Dr. James gifted 5 memberships. It's all about the members and it's all about the community. So thank you. Debbie, thank you for becoming a member. DC Primetime gifted another 5. Thank you, DC. Wow, KNS. Look at all these gifted memberships. 10 gifted memberships. Wim also gifted another 5. Wow, a lot of this happened while we were talking, and I'm sorry I didn't see it real time. Schmitty, who came from Missouri and visited New York City, I had to sit down dinner with her. I showed her what New York pizza is all about. We went to famous Umberto, and we had a Sicilian pie with Schmitty, and she told us how she got scammed in New York on a bus tour. So it was pretty interesting. She sends $25 and says, "You all do God's work. You have hearts of gold, forever grateful, much respect and love." Thank you, Schmitty. I think that covers every. Oh, no, it doesn't cover everybody. Princess Mitch says, "We will surely donate directly to Nick's team, another group of selfless humans doing God's work." Nice.
Thank you.
Barkin' Mad sends in $10 and says, "I'm from Sacramento and I followed Kylie's case closely. You guys are true heroes. Helped give the Rodney family some closure, and we thank you for what you do." Amen to that. Thank you. Well, here's a $20 super chat. It says, "Nick, right up front, please forgive me." So I'm cringing a little bit because I didn't read it. As he would never tell you this, but he has a hefty comp airline credit to use to take personal break. He won't, as he is so committed to his venture. That is a value that this man and his continued service has. All right. Well, we're putting your private business out there. Thanks to Peyton. I'm going to read the next one just in case. Black Rose says, "Thank you, Nick. What will be unique this time around?" That's from Black Rose, who's been a member for 34 months. There's more to come, right, Nick?
Yes, you'll have to stay tuned. We've got a lot of stuff that we're working on that I just don't have time to talk about, and some of it I can't. So
yeah, absolutely. But you will be back. So Xanaverse sends in $5. It says, "Thank you for this information." And then Tori, this is the last one. She gifted 1 membership. All of the support counts. It doesn't matter what you guys do, just by watching the videos and sharing helps a lot. Make sure you subscribe to Nick Rinn, Rattlesnake Rinn. We'll get to ask him why he's called Rattlesnake Rinn on the next live. On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we want to say thank you to everyone who's been here. Devin, the crew that are standing behind you, we salute you. We thank you for your service, and we thank you for what you're doing. On behalf of Ed Wallace and DutyRon, we wish you guys a great day. Stand by for a message from our cop team. That's Kara, Oscar, and Popeye, our pets, the DutyRon family. We'll talk to you soon. Peace, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.